When is a good time to downsize? It's a question I'm frequently asked. Hi, this is Jan Parrish with Fabulous Colorado Homes, powered by HomeSmart, empowered by my amazing clients, and fueled by coffee. If you're asking the question, chances are it's time. It's time to downsize. So when will you know? Well, you'll know when caring for the lawn is too much or all the upkeep, when someone has moved out or passed away and there's lots of extra space in your house, when you realize you really could do with less space. That's all telling you it's time to downsize. Or when you realize that you'd rather be in a community with other people in your same situation. Maybe you'd feel more comfortable in a townhome, or you want to live closer to family. In our Homes Reimagined webinar, we talked about a downsizing scenario, and while the character is fictional, she does represent a great deal of our clientele. Joining me will be Maegan Keller from Shape Space, Carrie Levy from Exodus Moving and Storage, Jayne Bale from Platte River Mortgage, and Aleta Antionette, also with HomeSmart.
Well, let's talk about Betty. She's recently widowed and has decided that caring for a big home, even while it holds wonderful memories, is causing too much stress. Since the pandemic hit, she's had a hard time getting the help she needs to clean and maintain her big family home. Betty and John raised their kids there. In fact, their youngest daughter was married in the gazebo by the pond. But the garden her husband tended has seen better days. The pond's dried up and the deck needs repair. Every room is filled with precious memories. Every wall is filled with pictures and memories of family vacations. John's office sits just as he left it when he passed in December of 2019. Betty's ready for a fresh start. She wants to be free to travel and not to worry about the lawn or the safety of her home. She'll stay busy visiting her 4 children scattered throughout the country. More time with her family is her compelling reason to downsize. She knows the move will be a lot of work and was excited when her realtors, Aleta and Jan, recommended she call Maegan Keller from Shape Space to help her organize and prepare her home for sale.
Thanks, Jan. This is a very common situation. We actually just this fall have had 6 women, single women in their 80s and 90s, one of them's 95, who have been making some big transitions. And one of them, it just happened this weekend. So with somebody like in this scenario with Betty, moving from your house that you have all your memories in, it's a lot. It can't, I don't recommend it happen quickly. And so with a client like that, what we would do is set up working with them weekly, maybe every other week or a couple times a week, whatever they need, and to quickly yet slowly holding the space for them to make that transition. So we always try to start with the big and easy items. You know, maybe it's a big coffee table that they know they don't like anymore. Those are some easy items to start to offload. And then we get down to the smaller items that are a little harder to make decisions on, and those always happen to be a lot of the sentimentals, the knickknacks, the photos, the letters, all the memories, all the stuff on the wall. We don't hit that right away because that's just too hard. And like I mentioned earlier, with any of these transitions, it's a lot of physical work, especially for somebody you know, in an older generation. It's physically exhausting, so we take on all of that. They get to sit there and just be the brains of it and make decisions and talk it out. And while they're doing that, we are really there holding a lot of space for their story and their memory. And with this client that I just moved this weekend, she's 79, and we started working with her in June. It's now November. So we worked about every other week for 5 or so hours and just slowly pared her down. And she really needed that time until she was finally able to move. We were there managing the movers, so she was not up and physically having to go to multiple rooms. And the movers were wonderful, and then they unloaded everything, but then we unpacked her that day. So when I left at 7 p.m. on Saturday, she had everything but a couple of living room boxes unpacked, ready to go. And so that's how we like to support people who are doing a huge transition like that. It's big.
That's nice. And as realtors, we end up doing very much the same thing because somebody's panicked about maybe a minor issue in the process of home selling. Maybe everyone's upset because the washer broke, and it's not really about the washer that broke, because that's a $150 fix or whatever, but it's the one more thing that they had to deal with because now the washer broke, and this is so hard. And so some of our job is too just to listen and go, yeah, this is hard. It's very stressful to move. It's stressful to sell. It's stressful to buy. But in the end, it'll be a much nicer, quieter space for her to be in.
And I think you might agree, Jan, that a lot of times as realtors, we're also providing a lot of resources, people that can come and clean and handymen. And in that example that you gave, someone that can come and repair that, maybe they don't have that resource. So I know probably over the years between you and I, we've probably accumulated, a couple of dozen resources for different things for different people. And yeah, they just need that support. It is an overwhelming process. So if we can provide some of those resources, make some of those phone calls, it makes it a lot easier for our clients.
We've recently helped a customer with a solution similar to this, where picking items that needed to go to children that are outside of the state. We would come, pack, and put into storage, and then as we went to the different states, and one was in Maryland, one was in Washington, that we would then deliver. So we would come in, pack and store, and then deliver these very precious items, sentimental items, to adult children in other parts of the United States. And that also helped alleviate some of the stress and create a solution where as you go through, it was put aside, we knew where it was going, and we were able to move it there. Right.
How long do you think a move like this typically takes just in prepping for it, Maegan?
Well, it always depends on the size of the house and how densely packed they are. And then just like any client, it depends on how quickly they're able to make decisions and process their things. So I always tell people we'll go as fast or as slow as people need. Obviously, we're pushing towards being effective with our time and all of that. But it would depend on the size of their house and how much time they have to commit to it. I would say not in under 2 months. I think it needs at least a couple of months, if not more like 6 months. It's usually quite a bit to get through, but I love working like with Jan and Aleta, working with the actual realtors on this to connect with what do you guys need to see happen, and then how can I help put some of that into motion, and then reaching out to Carrie and timing out, okay, here's the move, here's about how much we think. And yeah, we've done a lot of what goes to Johnny and Sue and all the kids and getting it there. I do always, as a declutterer though, I do always like to check with the kids and say, do you want that? Do you need it? Because I come across sort of that sandwich generation that has a lot coming at them right now. So we like to check on all parts. But with a big downside, I think that's one of the scenarios of moving that takes the most time. Depending, I do have one of my ladies was just ready to let it all go, and boy, she went so fast. It was she's one of my fastest clients. She was just like, I'm done. Let's get rid of it all. So it's very individual.
Right. So I would say just planning on, if you're in that situation yourself, 3 to 6 months is really a real reasonable time frame. And if it goes quicker, then it goes quicker. But it's really just to prep to get your house ready to sell, and then moving from there.
Exactly. I always say it takes time, energy, or money to manage all of our items and our homes and all the things in it. So
I have something in my house. She's actually a sculpture, and we're trying to get it to Colorado. Do you pick up things, you store them until you're going to different areas? Did I understand? Is that what you do?
Let me see if this solution works. We are Colorado based, and so we will pick up belongings in Colorado and hold them till we're going out of state. But listen to this. When I know where you are, which state are you in, Betty?
Southern California.
Of our drivers that are taking belongings out, and we actually have a trip planned here in the next 2 weeks going to California. And while we're out, we absolutely can swing by and pick up something to bring back to Colorado. So our intent is to always be carrying some belonging. The solution here is being completely flexible about when it would come, and the least expensive way is to match our schedule with Exodus moving and storage, because then we're picking it up at a convenient time. If you need it at a specific moment, we can do that, but that's when the cost increases.
For Maegan. Maegan, my stepmother recently passed away and the house is full. And my stepsister is planning to declutter her house and move her stuff in. But they're in Southern California. Do you work with people remotely? How does that work?
I can work with people remotely, and I can also connect them to somebody on the ground there. So there's a couple options. Like, for example, I mentioned the garage in Arizona and one in Minnesota, and there's obviously there's Zoom, there's FaceTime. There's a very cool app called Marco Polo that some people have heard of, and that is my favorite thing for working with people remotely, because you can flip the camera. So they can be sharing their space with me and saying, what about this? And this is here and this is, and then they can flip it back to them, and I can do the same. So I can immediately talk back to them and say, okay, great, we're going to do this, this, and this, or here's your checklist. So we're staying in touch, via email and checklist and that, but we're doing video in real time. And it's been very helpful, because then also all that video isn't stored on people's phone. So I do a lot of that virtually, but also if they found they needed on the ground help, I'm part of a national organization. It's very long. It's like National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals. And there's usually in California, I think there's 2 or 3 state chapters there, like a northern and a southern. So I can reach out to them, and if I know where their address is and where they need help, I can try to connect them with somebody on the ground who could take care of them. And were you saying they're moving into the house that's full right now?
Mm-hmm. A full house into another full house.
Yep. So just with an estate, if they needed help in this situation, if they said, oh my gosh, this is too much, we need to downsize this stuff, we would obviously suggest coming in beforehand. And what we can do for families, especially after a recent loss, we can sort things out so that the family then can come by and figure out what they might want to take or what should definitely go. And we're also connected to a bunch of estate sale companies. There's one in particular I like to work with. They can also sort and then sell everything too. So once the family has come through and made their decisions, if it's a big estate, might as well do an estate sale, because most of those companies can sell 90% of them, and then they can move in and not be moving into too much. But not everybody follows that. Yeah. And that is okay, but that would be the suggestion. Otherwise it gets really overwhelming. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Of course.
I just wanted to comment to anybody interested in making a transition in their life, to please do your homework before. Figure out the financial piece. Call me, talk to your realtors, get those pieces together before you make any moves, before it's too late. Get the game plan ahead of time. Then you have it, and it's easier to expedite the game plan then. And that's my 2 pennies on any kinds of transition, is let's do our homework ahead of time.
And I think it's all about really understanding what your objectives are, what's going to be the easiest path for you. And sometimes people want to save money and not hire some of these outside experts. But boy, in the long run, it really is a time and energy saver, because it's
Emotional
really,
saver.
yeah, it's really amazing to have somebody come in and pack everything up. This last move, I really gave myself that gift, and it was amazing. Yeah, really wonderful. So I concur very much with what Jayne said.
And you don't want to, like, if you're helping somebody in your family who's maybe been through a loss of a spouse, you don't have the emotional energy to do it on your own. And if your kids are not close by, or they don't have the emotional energy, you really need someone like Maegan to come in and help. And then anyone who's a baby boomer plus, I mean, we're too old to be moving sofas and beds and what like that. I mean, give that to yourself as well, because it'll save your back. It'll save you money at the chiropractor. You might as well spend it with the movers and not go through the chiropractor route.
You damage your body.
Right. And then, along with what Jayne is saying, do your research, figure out where you want to live. If you want to live in the outer line country areas, Sterling or Akron or Bennett or one of those places, go there, sit there, have a cup of coffee, talk to the residents. Same with anywhere you want to live. Be there in that community a little bit and see if that's the community you like.
The last situation has really been kind of true to home, because that's my mom, Betty, and my mom, lost her husband, so my father. So yeah, so it's been that one hit home, right?
Yes, it would. Definitely.
Yeah.
And I've read a lot that after a big loss like that it kind of can take 2 to 5 years to really transition. So it seems like it's been about 3. I had some people call me where it just happened 6 months ago and they're trying to do it all, and that's really tough. It's nice to be able to let some time pass. So
Yeah, well, the house that I'm in right now, same house ever since 1960.
wow, as somebody who moved around a lot, I find that fascinating and lovely. That's amazing.
No one has lived in their house as long as we lived in our house.
I've recently helped 2 different brother-sisters where both mom and dad had very large homes with lots of stuff, and then they were left with all of it, and it was very overwhelming for them. And they were young, like in their 20s and 30s, but I've seen it happen to friends in their 40s and 50s, and all of a sudden they have a giant to-do list on their hands. So it's a gift to the next generation too, just to start to process those things. And it doesn't have to happen fast.
But I have an even bigger shock for you. The house we live in, we paid $12,000.
Yeah, that's a big shock.
So that's a shock. Nobody hears that either.
That's incredible. Holy cow.
Thank all of our wonderful panel for being here to help us with this event, and the guests, thank you for coming, and hopefully we'll do this again sometime soon.
It was fun.
It was a
Yes,
fun.
indeed.
Thank you, ladies. That was very
Thank you
informative.
for joining us. Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching Downsizing on our series of Homes Reimagined Part 2. Next week, we'll be talking about simplified living. Be sure and like and subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. If you have any questions about anything we talked about here today, please leave a comment in the comment section below and we'll be sure and get back to you. Thank you also to my panel of experts, Maegan Keller with Shape Space, Carrie Levy with Exodus Moving and Storage, Jayne Bell with Platte River Mortgage, and Aleta Antionette with HomeSmart. Until next week, this is Jan Parrish with Fabulous Colorado Homes. Have a fabulous week.